Welcome back.
Darth Vader, the infamous Star Wars villain we all love to fear. And this is huge. The man behind the mask, David Prowse, joins us here on Morning Live with members of the 501st Canadian Garrison, the Stormtroopers, and Darth Vader.
He's there.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you'll see the 501st actually. They appear at many comic book conventions, and you see the Stormtroopers, and for great causes, charities as well. So we thank them for helping us out this morning. Thanks, Darth. But here's the real thing right here, David.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
Oh, so fantastic to see you, meet you, and many fans will get to meet you this weekend.
That's right.
This has been life-changing for you. How are you, by the way? I know you had a car accident, and you're still on the mend.
I had a car accident.
Yeah.
But that's not the major problem. What happened is a couple of years ago, I had a big operation where they replaced my knee, my femur, and my hip all in one go.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've had nothing else but problems. And then they said, well, your knee was a bit of a problem, and we couldn't do your knee properly, so we'll have you back in and resurface your patella. And so I went back in, and the knee has got progressively worse and worse and worse ever since. So,
Well, and you still make the effort
right.
to meet your fans, and
Other
we
than
really
I'm
appreciate.
fine.
Yeah,
Other
well,
than
we
I'm
really
fine.
appreciate that because
Yeah.
you'll be in Niagara Falls at Scotiabank Center.
Right.
This thing, as I mentioned, has been life-changing. Let's the origins here. Let's talk about, of course, you had filmed this. You were Darth Vader. You're the man behind the mask, and you had recorded the lines as well, and many of the famous lines. And it's Hollywood legend how you found out that all of a sudden your voice had been replaced by James Earl Jones.
Well, I didn't know anything about James Earl Jones, until, as I said, I went to see the movie for the first time, and then of course, I made a few inquiries as to what was going on, and they said, oh, this is see, all the way through the movie, I kept saying to George, what are we doing about the voice? Because everything I'm saying is coming from behind the mask, and it's obviously no good for reproduction purposes. And he said, oh no, don't worry, we'll overdub all your lines at the end of the movie. So in other words, you'll go into the sound studio. And this is what I was expecting to do. You see, anyway, we got to the end of the movie, and they all chased back to America because they couldn't get all the special effects that they wanted in the UK, and that was the last I heard of it. And then next thing I know, I go to the premiere, or at least we had a special showing for all the cast and the crew and everybody else, and there's James Earl Jones doing the voice. And
How does that happen? Where you're actually at, seeing it and finding out by watching the movie?
yeah, but I didn't. But once again, in a later film, I didn't know it was Luke Skywalker's father until I saw it in the movie. Yeah,
So how did they prep when you were actually shooting
Well, they
the
give you
scene?
false
Was there any?
dialogue.
How did
They just give you false dialogue so that you.
Right.
And then they overdub it. They overdub it with the real dialogue.
Have you had conversations with George Lucas after that? I mean, your relationship.
Well, I've never had much of a relationship with George. I mean, he's a wonderful guy and a wonderful director, but I've never had much of a sort of what I call a friendly relationship with him. And of course, there's all sorts of things have gone wrong, and I've sort of reacted to them and things like this, and unfortunately, it's not been accepted.
Well, there was the
in the manner
documentary.
in which.
Yeah.
It was done,
There was the documentary, The People versus George Lucas. I mean, there's so many fans that are upset with maybe the way that he treated things. You appeared in that, and I know he was upset by that as well. And yeah, but so you're not in part of the official Star Wars conventions, but that's the bonus because we get you at these things, and your real fans show up.
I go to the official ones. As
Yeah.
well.
But wasn't there a thing about
apart from the celebration shows?
Right, yeah.
He decided he didn't want me at the celebration shows nor the Disney Star Wars weekends. As
Right,
well.
right, yeah. Oh, we got you in Niagara Falls.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But I'm blown away too. I mean, Darth Vader, and that's takes up so much of your calendar year. But I mean, you were in some legendary films, Casino Royale, the original, and actually you were discovered in Clockwork Orange.
That's right. I was doing I did Clockwork Orange with Stanley Kubrick and Malcolm McDowell.
And George Lucas saw you in
And George Lucas saw me in it and remembered me for a couple of years. And next thing I know, I get a call from the managing director of 20th Century Fox, and he said, I've got this guy George Lucas in the office, and he very much wants to see you. And so I thought, here goes. I'll go up and meet him. I'd never heard of George Lucas before. And so I went out and met him, and he showed me all these conceptual drawings around this big room about the size of this studio. And I said, this is the film I'm going to be doing, and I'd like to offer you one of two parts in the film. And I said, I thought this is good, being offered two parts.
Yeah,
It's bad enough to get
Chewbacca was
one.
the other part?
Chewbacca was the first. And I said, what's Chewbacca? And he says, like a hairy gorilla that goes through the film on the side of the goodies. And all I could think of was 3 months in a gorilla skin. And I thought how hot and sweaty and smelly it was all going to be. And so I said, no, George, no, what's the other one? He said, well, the other one's the big villain of the film, a character called Darth Vader. I said, don't say any more, George. I'll have the villain's part, thank you. And he said, tell me for why. And I said, and he said, well, I said, if you ever think back on all the movies that you've ever seen where there are good guys and bad guys, you always remember the bad guy. And here we are, 30-odd, 40 years later.
Smart move, David Prowse.
I think it was a very, very smart move.
Because no one forgets this guy.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
give us a word after this? Can you sign the couch for us?
I will
The
sign
real
the couch.
Darth Vader right here.
I would be only too pleased to.
David
yes.
Prowse at the Niagara Falls Comic Con this weekend. Pleasure to meet you, and all your fans are can't wait to see you at the Scotiabank Centre this weekend. nfcomiccon.com with a long list of stars that are going to be there. All right, from Niagara Falls to Dundalk.
Jason, I am your father. Off to Busker Fest.